3 months after my dad died, my husband handed me divorce papers right after transferring half my inheritance to his name. I remember standing in our kitchen, barefoot, holding a cold cup of coffee in one hand and a letter from the probate lawyer in the other. That day was supposed to be the turning point for our future. At least that's what I thought. My father had just left me over $850,000 in inheritance, including a small lakeside cabin upstate. But my husband, Ryan, had other plans. Ryan and I had been married for 6 years. He wasn't perfect, but I thought I knew who he was. Funny how money peels away people's masks. The morning the lawyer called to confirm the transfer, Ryan was unusually affectionate. He made breakfast. He actually asked about my day. Red flags. Looking back, that same afternoon, I got a notification from my bank that a joint transfer authorization had been used on one of the accounts, the one where the inheritance had landed. And guess what? Half of it was gone. Transferred to a holding account with his name on it. I froze. I didn't confront him right away. Instead, I called my dad's lawyer and asked if anyone else could have signed a release form. The answer, no, only you and someone with power of attorney. But I never gave Ryan that, ever. So how did he do it? That night, I smiled through dinner. Ryan told me he was looking into investing some of our money. I said nothing. Even kissed him goodnight. Then, I got to work. I didn't sleep that night. I lay there next to Ryan, staring at the ceiling, thinking about every little sign I'd ignored. The business trips that didn't make sense. The sudden interest in managing our finances. The time he asked for my signature on a document from the mortgage company. And I stupidly signed without reading. I was a fool, but I wasn't going to stay one. The next morning, I dropped him off at work like usual, smiled, even laughed at one of his dumb jokes. Then I drove straight to the office of Claire Hastings, the same attorney who handled my dad's estate. I told her everything, showed her the bank transfer, the forged signature, and every text Ryan had sent about joint plans for our future. She stared at me for a moment and said, "This isn't financial misbehavior. This is fraud." That word hit like a slap. Claire pulled out her phone and called a forensic document examiner right in front of me. Within 48 hours, he confirmed what we already knew. The signature on the transfer authorization wasn't mine. It was an imitation. A damn good one, but not perfect. Claire leaned in, her voice low. "If you want to fight this, we have a case. A strong one. But we need to move fast and quietly." I nodded. I wanted my money back. But more than that, I wanted Ryan to understand exactly who he'd underestimated. For the next 2 weeks, I played the part. I cooked his favorite meals. I laughed at his jokes. I even wore that stupid blue dress he liked. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, Claire and her team were building an airtight legal trap. She pulled financial records, subpoenaed bank footage, and even hired a private investigator to look into Ryan's other activities. What we found, Ryan wasn't just a thief. He was an amateur conman. There were hidden accounts, credit cards I didn't know existed, a separate phone line under a fake name, and emails between him and some woman named Talia, discussing how they'd start fresh once the inheritance was fully transferred. Talia even wrote, "She'll never see it coming. Just keep pretending a little longer." Yeah, let that sink in. So I did exactly that. Pretended. Ryan had no idea that while he was sending love notes to his side chick, I was printing them out and handing them over to a legal team with teeth sharper than his lies. The first domino fell the day Claire filed an emergency motion to freeze all of our joint accounts. Ryan didn't notice at first, but 3 days later, while trying to pay for a business dinner, his card got declined. He came home fuming. "Something's wrong with the bank," he said. "I'm calling tomorrow." I shrugged. Must be a glitch. The next day, Claire served him with a cease and desist, a financial fraud complaint, and a court summons, all before noon. I wish I could have seen his face when he opened that envelope that evening. He came home early, pale, sweating. He tried to play it cool. "So, something came in the mail. From a lawyer." I raised my eyebrows. "Really? What about?" He chuckled nervously. "Just some misunderstanding. Probably about that weird transfer. It's no big deal. No big deal." I wanted to scream. Instead, I poured us both a glass of wine, clinked his, and said, "Well, let's get through it together, like always." He smiled, and I smiled back, already planning my next move. Ryan didn't sleep much that night. I could tell. He kept tossing, getting up, pacing around the kitchen like a rat in a trap, and that's exactly what he was. By Friday, Claire had enough evidence to file a civil suit and press criminal charges. She told me we had a solid case for embezzlement, forgery, and even wire fraud. If the DA picked it up, Ryan could be looking at jail time, but prison wasn't even the part I wanted most. I wanted him publicly ruined. The man who tried to steal from his own wife. Oh, he wasn't walking away quietly. Meanwhile, Ryan kept trying to play it cool. He sent flowers to my office, booked a surprise weekend getaway, said we needed to reconnect. I smiled and said, I'd love that. What I didn't tell him was that the private investigator Mark was following him, documenting every move, and on that same day, Mark sent me something that made my blood boil. Photos of Ryan at a jewelry store, buying a ring. Not from me. The woman in the photos with him. Yup. Talia. She looked younger than me, maybe late 20s. Long blonde hair, expensive heels, and a face that had clearly learned how to weaponize a pout. Mark also pulled hotel records. Ryan had booked a room under an alias, James R. James Ryan, subtle, but the best part, he used my credit card to do it. That was the moment I stopped being sad. I wasn't heartbroken anymore. I was focused, laser sharp. I gave Claire the green light. The lawsuit was filed that Monday morning. Claire made sure the court date was set as soon as possible. In the meantime, we sent formal notice to every bank and credit union we had accounts with, plus the 3 he didn't know I had in my name only. By Wednesday, Ryan's life started falling apart in real time. First, the financial firm he worked for found out about the investigation. Claire had anonymously tipped off their compliance officer, and guess what? Turns out, Ryan had listed my inheritance as part of his own assets on a company investment form. Total violation. He was suspended pending internal review. Then came the fun part. He tried to log into the investment app we shared. Locked. The brokerage had frozen the account. He called me in a panic. Babe, something's seriously wrong. Our accounts, everything's frozen. Did you do something? I looked him dead in the eye and said, why would I do anything? We're in this together. Remember. He just blinked. Speechless. Good. But then came the twist I wasn't expecting. The next evening, I came home to find Ryan sitting at the kitchen table, pale and sweaty again, but this time, not from guilt. I need to tell you something, he said. I sat across from him, arms crossed. He hesitated, then dropped the bomb. I took out a line of credit against the lake cabin, without telling you. My jaw clenched. That cabin was my father's pride and joy, the only place I'd ever seen him truly relaxed. We used to fish there, play cards, watch storms roll across the water in silence. He mortgaged it, behind my back. He looked ashamed, or at least pretended to. I needed cash. I thought it was temporary, just until the markets turned around. I was shaking, not with fear, but rage, quiet, burning rage, but I didn't explode. I just said, thank you for telling me. Then, I excused myself, walked into the bathroom, closed the door, and screamed into a towel. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was personal. He'd desecrated my dad's memory, violated the last piece of him I had left, and for what? Some desperate fling and a few stock picks. He wanted a war. He just got one. The next morning, I drove straight to the county clerk's office and pulled every document related to the lake cabin, and sure enough, there it was, a line of credit worth $65,000, opened under both our names with a forged co-signature. I texted Claire one word, confirmed. She responded within 5 minutes. Then, it's time for the gloves to come off. Claire filed a motion that afternoon to initiate criminal charges for mortgage fraud, and because the property had sentimental value, she added emotional damages to the civil suit. Every time Ryan had forged my name, he left a digital trail. We had dates, IP addresses, even timestamps. That evening, I walked into our bedroom to find Ryan packing. I need space, he said, like he was the victim. Sure, I replied calmly. Take all the space you need. And the moment he stepped out of the house, I changed the locks. 2 days later, I received a call from his sister, Angela. We'd always been close. She was crying. Why didn't you tell me? She asked. He told us you were taking all his money out of spite. I explained everything. The fake signatures, the stolen funds, the cheating, the mortgage fraud. Was silent for a long time. Then said, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I swear, if Dad were still alive, he'd beat his ass himself. Apparently, Ryan had even borrowed money from his own family, claiming I was withholding funds from him. It was like peeling an onion of betrayal. Every layer smelled worse than the last. Court day came faster than I expected. Ryan showed up looking like a man who hadn't slept in weeks. Unshaven, nervous. Talia was nowhere in sight. Claire was radiant, calm, precise. Claire, as we sat in front of the judge, Ryan's lawyer tried to spin some sob story about miscommunication and accidental signatures, but Claire wasn't having it. She presented the forensic evidence, the text messages, the bank records, the investigators' photos, even the credit line against the cabin. Then, she pulled out the last card, an audio recording. See, I had started recording conversations weeks before, and one particular night, Ryan had said, "Once the money's out, she can leave. I don't care, I'll be gone anyway." The courtroom was dead silent. The judge raised his eyebrows. Ryan's lawyer looked like he wanted to disappear. Then the judge looked directly at Ryan and said, "This isn't just unethical, it's criminal, and frankly, it's disgusting." Judgment was swift. All funds were ordered to be interest. The cabin mortgage was nullified due to fraud. Ryan was personally liable for damages, and the judge referred the entire case to the district attorney. But my favorite moment, when Ryan stood there, mouth open, stuttering like a child who got caught stealing from the cookie jar. He turned to me as I walked past and mumbled, "You didn't have to do this." I stopped, looked him in the eye, and said, "You didn't have to betray me." But here we are. Outside the courtroom, reporters were already gathering. Claire leaned over and whispered, "Want to make a statement?" I shook my head. "Nah, I'll let the paperwork speak." But I did allow one picture. Me, standing on the steps of the courthouse, holding the judgment papers like a trophy. I sent a copy to Angela. She texted back, "Justice looks good on you." 3 days after the court ruling, Ryan made the evening news. Local anchor. Bright smile, cheerful, tone like she was announcing the weather. A local financial consultant has been charged with multiple counts of fraud, forgery, and embezzlement, involving his own wife's inheritance. And boom, his mugshot flashed across the screen. I sat on my couch with a glass of wine, watching the slow unraveling of the man who once said he'd take care of me forever. I didn't even feel angry anymore. I felt clean. The news picked up fast. Apparently, Ryan had more enemies than I knew. A former coworker spoke anonymously about shady behavior. Another woman came forward claiming he'd borrowed $10,000 and ghosted her. It was like a domino effect of karma. But then came the twist I didn't expect. Talia reached out to me. She emailed me through a burner Gmail. The subject line, "I didn't know." At first, I deleted it. But curiosity is a funny thing. The next day, I read it. She claimed Ryan told her I was controlling, mentally unstable, and spending all his inheritance. She said she believed him and she saw the news. If I'd known the truth, I never would have helped him. Helped. That word stuck with me. I forwarded the email to Claire, who immediately responded, "We may have just found another witness." Meanwhile, Ryan was spiraling. He'd lost his job. His accounts were frozen. His professional license was under review. And his so-called friends had gone quiet. Angela told me he was staying in a cheap motel on the edge of town, drowning in debt and paranoia. "He keeps thinking someone's following him," she said. "He asked if you hired more people." I hadn't, but the paranoia, that was just dessert. He texted me once, just once, "Please stop. I've lost everything." I didn't reply, not out of coldness, but because I didn't start this. He did. Claire called me a week later with an update. The district attorney had officially filed charges. Ryan would be arraigned in 2 weeks. She also had news from the civil side. The media attention accelerated the case. We'll likely get a public judgment before the end of the month. And the damages might double. I should have felt relief. But part of me still felt unfinished. Not angry, not bitter, just a strange, quiet ache. Like, even after everything, there was a piece missing. That weekend, I drove up to the lake cabin alone. That was quiet, peaceful. The water still shimmered like silver. I poured myself some coffee, wrapped myself in Dad's old flannel, and just sat on the porch swing for hours. At some point, I opened my laptop. I started typing. I didn't know exactly what it was at first. Memoir, blog, maybe just a letter to myself. But the words poured out. He tried to erase me. Instead, I rewrote myself. 2 months later, that piece became an article, then a feature, Then, a book deal. I never planned on becoming a writer, but apparently, a woman exposing her husband's betrayal and turning it into a step-by-step guide to reclaiming her life is something publishers love, and the title, signed, stolen, and served. The courthouse was buzzing that morning. Reporters, outside, camera flashes, people whispering. Ryan walked in, wearing a wrinkled suit and a look like he hadn't slept in a week. He avoided eye contact with me. Good. The arraignment lasted just 25 minutes. The charges: 3 counts of forgery, 2 counts of wire fraud, 1 count of mortgage fraud, 1 count of identity theft, and an obstruction charge for trying to cover his digital trail. When the judge read out the formal indictment, Ryan's lawyer asked for bail. The DA objected. Claire leaned in and whispered, "He's not going home today." She was right. The judge denied bail, citing risk of financial flight. I watched as the bailiff walked over and handcuffed Ryan. He didn't protest. He just looked down at the floor. As they let him out, he turned to me one last time and said, "Nothing. No apology. No plea. Just silence. It was perfect." The news broke within hours. Former financial advisor jailed without bail in inheritance fraud case involving his wife. This time, I did give a statement, not out of spite, but out of necessity. I stood on the same courthouse steps, looked straight into the cameras, and said, "This is not just my story. This is every woman's story who's been manipulated, gaslit, or robbed by someone they trusted. Speak up. Speak loud. The law can be on your side if you stop being afraid to fight." The clip went viral. Within 48 hours, I had over 100,000 new followers on the blog I started after the lake house trip. Women from everywhere: California, Ohio, even Ireland wrote in with their own stories. They weren't just reading, they were rising. And then came the book, signed, stolen, and served. A Wife's Guide to Fighting Back dropped 3 months later. The first print run sold out in 5 days. I was on a podcast tour within 2 weeks, a morning show spot, an interview with a big-name host who asked, "What would you say to Ryan today?" I smiled and said, "I wouldn't waste the breath." Then, something weird happened. Talia reappeared again, this time, not through email. She showed up to one of my public signings. I recognized her instantly. She waited until the end of the line. When it was her turn, she didn't speak, just handed me a small envelope. Inside, a check, $7,500, with a note that said, "I took a loan from him. I didn't know it was your money. I never cashed it. Here it is." I looked up, she just nodded and walked away. That was the first and last time I saw her. Closure is strange, like that. It doesn't always come with fireworks. Sometimes, it's just a quiet moment, and a check you didn't expect. Back at the lake house, I framed that note, not because I forgave her, but because it reminded me, even the worst stories can leave behind something worth keeping. It was a gray morning the day Ryan was sentenced. The courtroom was quieter than before. No reporters this time, no cameras, just the smell of old wood, legal documents, and consequence. Ryan sat at the defense table, eyes sunken, hands cuffed. He looked small, like the man I once married had been stripped down to a sad, broken shell. He pleaded guilty to 5 charges as part of a deal. When the judge asked if he had anything to say, he stood shook and said, "I made mistakes. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I loved my wife, in my own way." His voice cracked. I didn't flinch, because even now, at the edge of ruin, he was still lying, still painting himself as a man who lost control, not one who planned every move. The judge wasn't moved. He sentenced Ryan to 6 years in prison, with eligibility for parole He was also ordered to pay restitution over $450,000, including interest, damages, and legal fees. As the bailiff escorted him out, Ryan didn't look back. I didn't cry, not on the drive home, not when I walked into the now peaceful house, not even when I passed the wedding photo I hadn't taken down yet. I just felt still, like a chapter had closed so tightly, it locked itself shut. Weeks later, the book hit the bestseller list. People started calling me the woman who bankrupted, the fraud. I hated the nickname, but I understood it. It wasn't just about Ryan anymore. It was about what I represented. I started getting emails from women trapped in financial abuse, emotional manipulation, secret debts. I tried to respond to every one. One woman wrote, "You didn't just win, you taught me I could, too." That one stayed with me. Life didn't become a movie montage after that. I didn't suddenly meet someone new, fall in love, or ride off into the sunset. But I did something better. I healed. I sold the house Ryan and I had shared, donated half the profits to a women's legal defense fund, moved into a small home near the lake cabin, planted a garden, started therapy. I still wrote, still spoke, still taught women how to protect what's theirs emotionally, legally, financially. One evening, I took Dad's old boat out onto the lake. Just me, the water, and a sky painted in orange and violet, and I thought about how far I'd come, not from love, not from grief, but from erasure. I had been written out of my own life. Now, I write the story. And this chapter, it's all mine. 3 years later, I barely recognized the woman I used to be, the one who flinched when the bank called, the one who second-guessed her own memory, the one who slept beside a stranger wearing her husband's smile. She's gone now. In her place, me. The book tour ended last spring. I turned down the talk show circuit, declined the reality show offer. Yep, they tried. Instead, I built something quieter, stronger. I started a foundation. Claim Back, a nonprofit legal resource for women in financial abuse situations. We offer free consultations, partner with law firms, and help them build their exit plans step by step, like I did. So far, we've helped 163 women leave their situations. But I don't call that success, I call it starting over. Sometimes, when I walk by the bookshelf in my home, I catch sight of the framed check from Talia. Sometimes, I still dream of courtrooms, signatures, and Ryan's pale, sweating face as the cuffs clicked closed. But more often now, I dream of the lake. Of calm, of silence without fear. One night, I stood at the edge of the dock and reread a passage from my book for an upcoming podcast. It said, "The moment you stop apologizing for surviving is the moment you start living." I closed the book and smiled. The next morning, I got a letter, a simple white envelope, no return address. Inside, a single page. It was from Ryan, 3 years in, still behind bars. It read, "I hope one day you'll forgive me. I still don't understand how we got here." I folded it without reading the rest, walked outside, and tossed it into the fire pit. Watched it burn. No anger, no drama, no closure needed, just a decision. His story ends here. Mine, it's just getting good.